Hi, my name's Aaron. Today I'm going to show you how to change your oil in a 2018 Highlander. Things you're going to need: you're going to need a funnel, a set of wrenches, specifically a 14 millimeter, a ratchet, 3/8 drive, oil filter tool, hello ant, oil obviously, and a drain pan. This is the vehicle we're working on, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do up top, we're going to come up here, we're actually going to undo the actual cap, and we're going to move on down to the bottom. When we get down here, you'll see the oil filter housing. It's got a plug in the bottom of it. We got to remove that, and with your oil filter comes a tool so we can actually drain out the fluid from the housing, so that way we don't make a mess all over the place. So once you have the plug out, you shove the tool into it. Don't be surprised if a little bit of oil comes out on the plug. It's not a big deal. It does take a little bit of force to put in, but it will go in there. And this is so we don't make a mess all over the place. So once the filter housing is empty, what we're going to do is we're going to put a new O-ring on the filter housing plug. I can't stress it enough. If your kit comes with O-rings, replace the O-rings. And you should only buy it if it came with O-rings to begin with, because if it doesn't, it's probably going to leak. Once we have the plug installed, now we're going to take the actual oil filter tool, which is this guy right here. You pick this guy up at Napa. It's a little bit on the pricey side, but that's the part number for it. And it makes getting this guy off a little bit easier. You can see here, that's got grooves in it, and those index into slots on the actual filter housing themselves. So that way it gets a proper bite, and it only goes on one way. It uses a 3/8 ratchet to actually grab onto it. All right, now that we have this thing broke free, I'm gonna start unscrewing it by hand. Let me switch hands here. Catch anything that falls out. And there we go. Okay, so now filter replacement on this is very straightforward. Just pop the old filter out. Excuse me. We're doing this one-handed. Don't need that guy. Set it aside, do whatever. Make sure your hands are clean, or at least clean-ish. Go ahead and set the new filter inside. Make sure it's all the way seated. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to replace this O-ring. I'm going to do it off camera because it is a little awkward to do one-handed, but generally they'll come off. If your vehicle's serviced pretty regularly, they'll come off very easily. If it's kind of baked on there, you'll probably need a pick. Always make sure use the new O-rings. Do not reuse the old ones. I cannot stress that enough. And before you put it back in, make sure to pre-lube the O-ring. After you got your O-ring on and it's pre-lubricated, what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a filter and guide it up in there. Start off by hand, make sure it goes in. You don't want it cross-threaded because that'll be a pain in the butt to get off and you'll ruin the housing. And that's just another expense we don't want. Don't use this guy to tighten it. Use the tool. And you don't have to go 200-pound gorilla on the thing. You just need to snug it down so it's seated and just barely go beyond seated. The thing will not come out. The last thing we're going to do under the car is we're going to drain the oil. So make sure you have your drain pan ready. It's a 14 millimeter bolt. And this same thing, you don't have to torque the crap out of it. When you put it back in, you just got to run it a little bit past snug. Now that we're back at the top of the vehicle, I'm going to go ahead and put in our oil. The system takes 0.20. It takes 5.8 quarts. Make sure you have your funnel ready and start pouring. Now that we have the motor running, after filling it full of oil, we're going to make sure there's no drips or leaks coming from the bottom. And after we do this, we're going to come up, shut the motor down, let all the oil pull down to the bottom, and check the dipstick and make sure that we have the proper fluid amount in it. Okay, so what we're going to do now, after the motor's been shut down for a minute, we're going to pull the dipstick out. We're gonna wipe it so that way we don't have excess oil on the dipstick. Stick it back in. We're gonna check it again. We're gonna make sure we are within the service margin. And from what we can see, oil levels coming up to about here, which is within the service dots. And we are good to go. So this concludes our video on changing your oil on a 2018 Highlander. I hope you get something from this, and as always, save time, do right the first time.